We waited close to a whole decade, people! Well, this was a given, wasn't it? This is the Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy. If you know me, then you know just how much I love the Crash Bandicoot series. Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped is without question my favourite game in the series. Or it was, until this came along. And I'm not saying that because I'm on the insane hype sugar. I genuinely mean it when I say that the entire Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy is my new favourite Crash Bandicoot game. And now to explain why all over again. There are two things about the original trilogy you might know about me. How much I love Crash 3, and how much I don't actually like Crash 2 compared to the rest of the fanbase. I don't hate Crash 2, I just don't like its design choices. And then there's the original game. Age doesn't even begin describing it. So what happens when you take 3 classic PlayStation games, give them to one of the best developers of our time, and ask them to remaster all 3 games from the ground up for the modern tech? You end up with this! And it is pure platforming and Crash Bandicoot bliss! Everything I loved about the original Crash games is here, and everything I wanted to love about Crash 1 has finally been given a chance to prove itself. Heck, my favorite level in the remastered classic was actually my least favorite level from the original game! Does that not suggest that they got the remastering of Crash 1 right? In fact, I can safely say that about quite a few things in this remastered trilogy. Some things from the original games didn't really sit with me all that well, but Vicarious Visions have brought them up to speed and improved them, even if it doesn't seem like they have done anything majorly different. So you might be thinking to yourself, so what? It's just 3 PlayStation games remade for the PlayStation 4. What's the big deal? Quite a lot, actually. Vicarious Visions didn't just settle at remastering these games. They went to work turning this into their own rendition of the classic Crash formula. All the changes and additions they made, it changes up the dynamic of the games quite drastically. I went into this trilogy simply thinking I'd be playing it the same way as I have been for nearly 20 years. But no, I found myself playing the remastered trilogy in a whole new way because of these minor changes and additions. You might recall this argument I made about Crash 2, for example, that I found it super linear and that you can clear all the game's levels in sequence without break and completing it. Well, that's still mostly true for the N. Sane Trilogy. Courtesy of Coco Bandicoot being playable, the full accessibility of the hidden warp room, and the addition of the speed shoes for time trials, I was able to find a way to switch up how I play the game from the days of old. And I usually play through Crash 2 without doing anything any different. And amazingly, the same thing happened with Crash Bandicoot Warped. Coco Bandicoot's playability meant that I could find all new ways to approach the level order and diversify how I can play the game. And to be honest, I'm not even sure if there is a way for me to definitively play the N. Sane Trilogy version of Crash 3. And I really love the addition of the relics in the first 2 games. Honestly, it allows for a lot more creativity and I have a blast bending the rules slightly to see what is possible. It might seem minor, but it adds up to be quite significant. There's a lot of fun to be had trying different routes and rules and seeing what times you can achieve. Especially in the first game. I think this alone sells me the game. They're surprisingly well crafted and so much fun. There is a definite sense of faithfulness and love that has been poured into this trilogy. A sense that you rarely see in games these days. If anything had to prove that platformers are far from dead, then this game, along with several more from this year, single-handed proves the case. There is so much to love about the Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy. I can't think of any other word to describe it except for fantastic. This is how you make a remaster. And this is how you please a fanbase that is up there as probably the most demanding and shocking. No, I'm serious. There, quite frankly, is no other way of putting it. The Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy is my favorite game of 2017. However, this isn't my favorite game that I first played in 2017. We're far from done here. We have the top 2 to go. And believe me, this was a tough decision to make.